Welcome to another installment of Hack TV. Hack TV is how the Haitian American Caucus is still bringing the members of our community vital information and resources. The Haitian American Caucus is a global development nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide the Haitian communities around the world with access to information and resources that fosters self-development and success. I am Rashidi Denson, your co-founder of PMD Advanced Consulting. I will be your host tonight. I am so excited about having a partnership with Flatbush Development Corporation, which is also known as FDC, who is the sponsor of tonight's segment. Well, we want to get right into this. Tonight, we're going to be talking about crossing with cultures with our community. Everybody wants to know what is the voice in the community. So tonight, we've been able to get some dynamic individuals who represent the voices in their community that's authentic and the way they need to say it. Well, our first guest tonight is Ian Simmons. Ian Simmons is an author. He also represents a faith-based leader in the community. And we know in the Black community that faith-based organizations is a huge thing. But tonight we want to tackle mental health and self-care. Is that an exciting topic or what?
It's a very exciting topic.
It really is, especially the fact that we are in Essential Men, a grooming lounge, which is a fantastic place to come to for all the men in the community. But get this, everybody knows that the barbershop, the grooming lounge is a sacred space. You just don't allow everybody to come in. And tonight we allow cameras to come in and actually share the heart of our community in this environment. So Ian, real quickly, can you give our viewers and listeners some credibility? Share with them, who are you, where you come from, and how did you get to this journey of mental health and self-care?
Well, I want to say thank you so very much for inviting me, including me on this platform. I am originally from, they call it the Boogie Down Bronx.
Okay.
And I am a graduate of Nyack College. And you know all about Nyack College.
I know all about it. Ain't that something? We met in Nyack.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it is that I'm from Brooklyn, and everybody know, like, when you from Brooklyn, the heart of Brooklyn, you don't go up, you think the Bronx is like upstate somewhere, right? So look, school brought us together.
Absolutely.
And we maintained a friendship for years and an authentic relationship.
Absolutely.
Where we don't talk every day, but when we do talk, we just pick up where we left off.
Right.
So let's jump right into this. So let's talk about, you're a faith-based leader in the community. And you shared something with me, right? Mm-hmm. And you said to me that last year during the pandemic, you decided to take a walk. Talk to us about that walk.
Well, I was a pastor for about 2 years, and I took over my dad's church. He passed away in 2013. Actually, we came up on an anniversary the other day. 22nd of this month. Wow. Makes 8 years. So my dad pastored for 29 years. In 2013, he passed away. It was about 5 years or so that I served just assisting before they decided to make me, appoint me the pastor of the church.
Okay.
So I was the third in succession. My great-grandmother founded the church in the 40s.
Really?
Yeah, the church was about now 80 years old. So I pastored for 2 years, and it was just a whole lot of stuff going on. Mm-hmm. And it was affecting my physical health, my mental health, and I said, I have to stop because this is not going to kill me. I have a wife that I have to live for. She needs me.
Wait. So you telling me that in the faith-based community, in that circle,
absolutely,
you got to a point where you had to let it go?
I had enough.
But I thought that's supposed to be the environment where you're supposed to already be relaxed. You're supposed to find peace. So what happened? What caused where you wasn't able to find that peace in that particular community?
Sometimes what appears to be comfortability, familiarity, could definitely be your downfall. And I feel like that was downfall for me because I grew up there. So I wasn't allowed to pastor the church the way God would have me to pastor because they knew me as a little boy growing up. From the time that my dad became the pastor. He became the pastor in '84, and I wasn't even 1 year old yet. So that was the only church that I've known. So, you know, don't mean to take it to Bible, but even Jesus had a complex. You know, he came into his own received him not. And there were certain places that he couldn't perform a whole lot of miracles because to them, he was only the carpenter's son. So what he did was shake the dust off his foot and he kept on moving. And he advised the disciples to do the same.
So you telling me to shake the dust off my feet if I run into somebody that's familiar?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If they don't receive you.
If they don't receive you.
Don't try to prove yourself or force or enforce yourself. You just be. But if they don't receive you, there's an option. You don't have to stay where you're not tolerated.
So I like the fact that you get an opportunity to share your story and own your story, because I'm sure that when many people hear that a faith-based leader, a pastor walks away, most people are gonna be like, really? How could he do something like that? So let's talk about a little bit, let's shake a little bit when it comes to the mental health side. How are you familiar with that area? How much do you know, and is it connected to you work-wise, family-wise? How do you relate to that?
I want to say that it is family-wise because I'm telling the truth about personal experiences. My family has a history of mental disorder. And one of my cousins actually committed suicide. She was a mother, she was a wife, and she had enough. And I unfortunately went down that downward spiral, not necessarily taking my life, but wanting to take my life because of the things that I went through in the four walls of the church. You know, the pressure of being a kid and being the pastor's kid.
Well, you was a PK.
I was a PK.
Okay.
In every sense of the PK.
Every sense.
Every sense of it.
So people judged you. People already had a box for you to get into.
Absolutely.
And when you started coming into yourself.
Absolutely.
And trying to spread your own wings, they didn't receive it.
They didn't receive it.
Wow.
But it was a struggle trying to be what everybody else was being outside of the church and trying to be what everybody wanted me to be inside the church.
Wow. So it's ironic that we're having this conversation in a men's grooming lounge.
Right.
Because we know that when brothers come to get groomed, a lot of times you get an opportunity to rub elbows with another man.
Absolutely.
And be able to share things that you just can't share on the outside.
Right.
So this is like a sacred space.
Right.
So we're letting people eavesdrop on our sacred space, right?
Right.
And so that's not an easy thing to say. That
not an easy
this is something that you've dealt with in your own personal life. And so what was the self-care part? What are some of the steps you've taken to heal and keep yourself sane and stable?
I believe it was the people that was in my life that I had built relationships with, that I can lean on them for support. And then also rest, pulling away from it just to kind of clear my head.
Okay.
We talk about safe space, but where does a car go when it's run out of gas? Goes to a gas station.
To the gas station.
Because you can't run on empty.
So you mean to tell me you could be fancy, the car could look great, detailed well.
If it don't got no gas, it ain't going nowhere.
It's going nowhere.
Going absolutely nowhere.
And the thing about getting gas is that you have to make a stop.
Have to make a stop.
And after you make the stop, you got to be intentional about getting out the car. And you have to take the hose in the nozzle. You got to make sure you take the gas cap off. And then you have to stick it inside the car. And before you do all of that, you got to make sure you pay for it.
Absolutely.
So if you don't pay for it,
You have to invest in you.
you won't be able to get no gas.
Absolutely.
So what have you done to invest in you? Because we're talking about self-care. A lot of people do a lot of different things. Even some things could be called addictions, habits that they do to invest in themselves. What are you doing to invest in you, into the self-care you, the new you?
Writing.
Okay.
I'm an author, so I put all of my energy, my stress, my anxieties into writing, and also sometimes not necessarily a vacation,
Okay.
because not a lot of people are vacating in the middle of the pandemic. Things are opening up now, but
Right.
you know, I think a level of insanity and mental awareness kind of reached its peak during the pandemic because everybody was in the four walls of a building.
Okay.
So, but for me, sometimes my safe place, my safe space is my home.
Is your home.
Is my home.
And so you've used your pen to express what's on the inside so the world on the outside can read it and really understand not just what you're going through, but be able to have a game plan on how to get through what they're going through.
Absolutely.
So just tell us real quickly, what books have you wrote, or what book have you written recently, and what is it based on?
I wrote a book entitled, which is my first book, called From Process to Promise.
Okay.
Now, this is I want to say biblical based book,
Okay.
but it has some personal experience of mine. One, the attempt of suicide, and the experience of losing someone that was very major in my life. I think this is one of the greatest loss that I could have ever experienced as an individual and as a man. Because when my dad passed away, I was transitioning from 29 into 30.
Wow.
So I deal with my experience. I deal with people in the Bible experience like Moses. I deal with Joseph. I deal with Elijah. And I'm not trying to turn this into a Bible study lesson. But you told me to be myself.
You got to speak it the way you speak it.
You told me to be myself.
Everybody's not going to agree with you, but
So-
at the end of the day, if that's your safe space and that's what you know has helped you gain credibility and grow and get up off the floor, then you got to say it.
So I deal with Elijah, since you're talking about the mental health piece.
Right.
He went from a high moment to a very low moment in a matter of hours.
Okay.
He's seen God show up on his behalf in a place called Mount Carmel. Then Jezebel finds out what he has done to her prophet.
Jezebel.
And she sends word to him that may the gods deal with you the way you deal with my prophet.
Wow.
Pretty much, she wanted him dead. So this man that had a great victory over here is now at a place where, based off of what this woman said, he's running for his life. He's in the wilderness. And he tells God, I've had enough. So pretty much he was telling God, take me out of here. It wasn't necessarily suicidal thoughts. He just wanted to die. So he had mental and physical exhaustion. So this is what God did. Instead of giving him death, he tells him, go to bed, get some sleep. He had some water, he had some bread for him so that he can replenish himself because he was not done. Wow. So that book, I feel like it has reached not only spiritual lines, but culture lines. It has gone to different places because everybody has a process and everybody has a promise. It doesn't necessarily have to be a promise from the Lord, but maybe a goal that you may have for your life.
Okay.
But in order for you to get to that place, you have to go through something. And it may be some of the challenging, most difficult seasons in your life, but you got to keep going in order to get to that goal, in order to get to that promise.
You got to keep going. So, listen, I think that you have really helped our viewers get a great insight to who Ian Simmons is, the author behind the pen. And I just want to say this to you. I was just having this conversation the other day about a lot of people feel comfortable when you tell them that you've changed, right? So it makes them feel good that if you come from something that's negative, then you won't do anything to hurt them. But I've realized that a lot of us haven't changed. You really need to grow up. You need to mature. And I'm sitting here with an individual who didn't necessarily change, but you matured, you grew up. You got through the hard things in your life.
I think, let me just kind of get this out while it's in my head, that it took my dad transitioning in order for me to grow up, believe it or not.
So sometime somebody has to move on in order for you to get up.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's exciting. So I think that if we have to say anything else, and we look forward to actually bringing you back on this platform.
I would love
and
to
seeing you on many other platforms, because we know that book is going to soar, right? We know a lot of people are going to be interested. So we look forward to getting you back and giving you an opportunity to share with our viewers how they can stay in touch with you and how. So just tell them real quickly as we fade off, how can they stay in touch with you? How can they get in touch with you? How can they find you?
They can find me on Facebook, which is Ian Simmons 83, or via email, iantsimmons8@gmail.com.
Wow, great. Thank you so
You're
much.
very welcome.
Ian.
It's my pleasure.
It was so
Yes,
great
sir.
having you on the show.
Thank you for
today.
having me.
Thank you so much.
I get up.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm so excited about having you on this platform. It's been a long time coming. We got Evangeline Byars, who is TWU Local 100 candidate for president. I call her Madam President. I am so excited about being on this platform with you tonight, especially on Hack TV, and giving you the opportunity because you represent a very unique voice in our community. And we really want to dive into this mental health with self-care. And so if you've been looking on the news and you've just been reading a lot, you've seen crime has been rising in our neighborhoods. We're still going through the pandemic. Some people say post-pandemic, but we still have traces of it. We're still going through it. And now you're in a position where you're like that dominant voice for a lot of people. And it's not just women, it's a lot of men. So talk to the viewers, give us some credibility. Where are you from, how you was established, and why are you on this road that you're on right now to presidency?
Okay, so my name is Evangeline Byars. I am candidate for president of TW Local 100. I'm a train operator for New York City Transit. I've been a train operator for about 5 years now. Interesting enough, I'm from Bedford-Stuyvesant, the home of Biggie and Jay.
Yes, yes, yes. Give it up, give it up.
So I'm from Bedford-Stuyvesant, and a lot of the people who work at Transit actually are from my community, people I grew up with. You run into people you know all the time. It's a unique environment. It definitely was a culture shock going into Transit because you're told, you know, when you go in that it's this great place, you have all this opportunity, this, that, and the other.
Right.
And although that is true, it's the city and the state of New York are very hostile towards unionized employees.
Okay.
So I'm a member of TW Local 100. It's the largest transport workers union in the United States. And being a part of the union about 2017-18, I ran for executive board of TW
Okay.
Local 100.
Right.
So the executive board is the supreme governing body of the local. It's the place where you basically, the membership at large is protected. At the time, we had over 46,000 members, and I represent the train operators division. Being on the executive board was definitely an eye-opener. It showed me that unionism, the way that we are taught about the labor movement, it's not like that anymore. It's very corrupt. There is a lot of complicity as far as the administration working against the membership,
Okay.
in collusion with management, which would be the MTA board. And so, being in that environment, I've always been an activist. I got my start in activism at Medgar Evers College.
That's how we met.
Yes, that's how we met. Yeah.
You've always been a voice in the
Yes.
community.
So at Medgar Evers College, I led the Medgar Evers College student movement, which led to that college still being a part of the CUNY system with all its rights and privileges. It educates over 7,500 Black people annually. And it was on the verge of a hostile takeover by CUNY due to the facilities and stuff that it now has that it didn't have before. And so we led that fight, we won. That also afforded me to become a part of President Barack Obama's organizing team around student debt and things of that nature. But going back to transit, being a part of the executive board and seeing what they were doing to the membership, the first thing they did was we were in contract negotiations as soon as we came in. And whenever you go into contract negotiations, they're supposed to give you a copy of the contract.
Okay.
Right? Our union never gave us a copy of the contract. We emailed them the night before asking for it. Were they gonna have it ready for us the day of so that we could go over it? Because whatever we vote on, that's what becomes a part of,
Absolutely.
A part of our agreement between us and management. And they didn't bring it. And so when they didn't bring that document, it caused a firestorm, right? And it wasn't enough of us that were against it to be able to stop it, and we didn't have the money to file an injunction in federal court. So therefore, we just were taken advantage of. And that angered me, and it led me to start talking to the members about what was happening. And that's when I decided to run. But that also came because of the pandemic. We had 157 people that died during the pandemic, thousands sick. We were forced to work when everybody else was able to stay home. The governor of New York State said that we didn't have to be there. However, our own local made us show up every day in the midst of a pandemic, took away our days where we could, if we needed to take time off. So we had a lot that we were up against. And so going through all of those things, it led me to run for president of Local 100.
So you was like, somebody got to do it. And
Correct.
if that person's going to be somebody, it's going to be me.
Correct.
And so we know that there's been an influx, there's been a rise of mental health, especially within the transit system. New York City is known for our train system. I'll tell you the truth, right? I've traveled other states. There's no train system like ours,
Like New York, right.
Like New York. And it's just an amazing transportation tool for all of us. It really gets you not from A to B, but A through Z.
Right.
But let's tell the truth. It's been a lot of mental health on there. And so what's going on right now? What are y'all doing to fix this situation?
Well, we have a lot going on. We just, everybody probably knows, if you saw the news, that our employees were being assaulted daily, right? We had a gentleman who was stabbed in his face and lost his eye.
Yes.
We had someone, women are constantly assaulted on the train, spit on, punched. And we were not being protected. And we have to always understand something. Wherever you find a large concentration of minorities, especially Black people, there's always, you find racism somewhere in there, right?
Okay.
And so one of the things that we're experiencing in transit right now is a two-tier system, meaning the Long Island Railroad and the Metro North have the MTA police, right? If somebody's assaulted on the Long Island Railroad or Metro North, by the time you get to the next stop, there's a police officer there and it's taken care of. In New York City Transit, we had no police on the train, no police on the platform. The MTA and an investigation proved that the police officers that they were promising us that were there, they were not. So what they were doing was, at the beginning of the shift, they would send police to stand at the turnstiles, right? So make it look like the appearance that police are there, and then they give it a few hours and they disappear. And during the time of them disappearing, you saw in February, we had the Valentine's Day massacre, where the gentleman rode the A train and stabbed the people when there was supposed to be police at that terminal, right? Had they been doing their job, that wouldn't have occurred. So these types of things do not happen on the Metro North and the Long Island Railroad. But on New York City Transit, where we're supposed to have transit police, which the Transit Bureau is almost non-existent, we don't have that. So we called an emergency press conference and confronted Governor Cuomo because he is in charge of the MTA, not Bill de Blasio.
Oh,
right?
really?
Right.
So the governor is over it, not the mayor?
Correct.
Okay.
So I've challenged Governor Cuomo before. We had to take him on when we had to deal with McEvers College, right? He is anti-union and he is not a nice man, right? Politically, he's a bully. People are really, really scared of him. A lot of unions and people finance him because if you don't do what he says, usually there's like a repercussion. However, I think that if the people would understand that they have the power, right? You can change a lot of things. And when it comes to my stance on Governor Cuomo, is that we financed you. We gave him $183,000 towards his campaign. And he promised to fix our pension system and do a lot of other things. He took our money and never dealt with any of our issues. He doesn't even respond to us at all. And so we've been basically challenging the governor and everything else and changing the narrative, because what they tell people is that it's Bill de Blasio. Bill de Blasio has no say over New York City transit system. He only has 4 people that serve on the MTA board.
Wow.
No spending power at all. He has no budget when it comes to the MTA. That comes from Governor Cuomo. So it's his responsibility to apply to make sure the police are funded, that the mental health initiative that they promised to implement in the subway system is there. All of these things come from the governor. But what they do to change the narrative and deflect, they'll start saying, calling for Bill de Blasio to resign and things of that nature, but that's not his area.
Wow, this is a very interesting conversation, and you're releasing a lot of information out to our viewers and our listeners. We know that one of the things that the Haitian American Caucus, they're not endorsing you. They're not endorsing any specific candidates.
Correct.
But they do have a platform to give you a voice.
Correct.
To allow everyone to express the voice in the community. And you represent that community.
Right.
And it's a very large community, but it's been silenced. Let's talk about the self-care part, right? So what are your thoughts about self-care for the workers? Because they've been through some traumatizing things in the last year and presently, and they've lost a lot of colleagues. So what's your take on self-care? What are you looking to do?
Well, at New York City Transit, we don't have mental health days. So what happened during the pandemic that, yes, we lost 157 employees, but a lot of us took COVID home to our families. I infected my parents with COVID, and there were other people who infected their loved ones. And a lot of people lost their mothers and fathers, their husbands and wives, their children. A lot of people are now terminally ill because of that, lost lungs and everything else from working through the pandemic. And there has been no negotiation, which we have the ability to, right? Because within our contract, which is never happens, we have clauses that say subject to committees. meaning that if something comes up that is very important and they need to make changes or implement something, they can go back into the contract and form committees and make that happen. However, even with the pandemic happening, there's been no mental health initiative on behalf of the employees. There have been one gentleman, he lost his wife and blacked out on the train,
Wow.
wound up crashing the train in the train yard.
Wow.
There's been a lot of different things happening. There's a gentleman, I get a lot of calls being that I'm running for president. People call and talk to me about the different issues that they're experiencing. A lot of it is that as they're going through their grieving process, they are not given the time to breathe. They're given a regular time for bereavement, but they have multiple family members that died. Not to mention they're not given the time off for them to take the time to even deal with the shock and awe of the fact that they just experienced these tragedies. So mental health is something that is not widely spoken about or provided for the membership. However, we can get mental health coverage.
Okay.
We have mental health coverage in our healthcare. It can, but it's not something that's widely spoken about.
Wow. Wow. So, do you believe that self-care is vital in your community
Yeah.
of colleagues, of workers in the transit system? So, what's vital about it? Because
Well, we talk about mental health and stuff now a lot, and self-care. Like a lot of the guys, I'm a train operator, so there's a portion of the work of the train system that's called work trains, right? Where it's a very gritty job. Like the men walk on ballast. They're often walking on the train tracks and things of that nature to do the work that has to be done. And so a lot of them do go and get self-care because they have to take care of their feet, or they'll get like spurs in their feet. All type of different things happen with their legs, their knees. So they do get massages and things of that nature. But now that I know about here,
essential men.
essential men.
Right, because if they come here, they're essential.
Yes.
There you go. There
Right.
you go.
So the city hasn't deemed us essential workers. So our essential workers can come into essential men and get groomed. And I think this is really good. I'm gonna definitely take this back to the men and tell them that they can come, and the women too, because they have husbands and everything else. They can.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So essential men gonna let the women in, right?
Correct.
When they come in with their husbands, right? They're gonna usher their husbands in.
Yeah.
They just dropping them off, right?
Right.
Just drop them off, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we are so excited that you decided to join us today because, like I said, you represent a very vital voice in the community
Right.
with all the things that's going on. So I just want to give you an opportunity. As you see everything that's transpiring and happening, obviously, you're a black woman, you're running for a very huge position, and it's a lot of pressure.
Yes, it is.
How are you handling that pressure, and what are you doing for self-care?
So how I handle the pressure is I have been focusing on my own personal community, people who I confide in, who I talk to. I have a lot of people that have reached out and have just become a part of my life because of me running. Whenever you launch out to do something like this, God always sends help, right? And so it is very interesting because we're told that black men or men in general don't usually support women, right? But I could not run for president of TW Local 100 without being supported by men. And I am held up by a lot of men.
Wow.
They encourage me, they pray for me. My campaign manager is a man. There's men all over the place. The vice president, the guy that's running with me, his name is Jamel Nicholas. He's a man, and so I am heavily supported by men, and it's been a very positive experience. It's also teaching me about men, right? Because had I not been in this position, I wouldn't have access to so many men. And so we talk about, I listen to their their concerns about their family, their children, their future, retirement, some of their fears, and things of that nature. So I get to see men in so many different elements. But the biggest thing that I'll take away from this is the support that I have gotten from men.
Wow. So you are supported by a lot of men.
Yes.
And I'm sure after all these viewers listening to you, they're going to be very interested in staying in touch with you. So how can they stay in touch with you? How can they find you? How can they reach you? We
Right.
know how to reach you.
Right.
But how can the viewers reach you?
I have a Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, which is Evangeline Byars on Facebook. Vote Evangeline Byars for president of TW Local 100 on Facebook. On Instagram, Vote Byars for president. Twitter, Evangeline Byars 1. And I have a website, which is evangelinebyars.com. So if you want to reach me, you can reach me that way. And you can also call the campaign number, which is 347-757-1212.
We are so excited that you decided to join us today.
Thank
we
you.
look forward to bringing you back on many other platforms that we will be on. As I said before, the Haitian American Caucus provides these platforms so that this information and these resources can get out to the global community. And we thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, because we know you are busy in this season.
Yes.
And just sharing with our viewers this information and bringing a lot of things aware, making us aware of a lot of things that's going on within that sector of the community. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Okay.
She was great.
Every life has worth beyond measure,
Within each person is a flood of potential.
waiting to be unleashed.
What if every child
Every woman,
and every man was able to imagine something new
full of hope,
New dreams,
and the ability to choose their own future? A new way of seeing the world,
the community,
themselves.
pushing past the obstacles that once were. And when the world yells, you cannot.
We will keep whispering, yes, you can. Together we can make a difference,
Together we are stronger.
able to move mountains and break the chains of poverty.
Haitian American Caucus, strengthening Haiti through
education,
Health,
feeding programs,
micro enterprise.
We are Haiti.
We are HAC.